Hey folks, CA Rachna Ranade here and I welcome you all to another brand new video which is I guess going to be my last video before we hit 2 million subscribers on YouTube. Yay! So just in case if you have not yet checked out my 2 million giveaway on my website rachnaranade.com, please go and enroll yourself so that you can stand a chance to win some courses, some merchandise and many more products. So now let's understand what does Heramba Industries Limited actually do. It is a crop protection company. So it's mainly into, you can imagine something like insecticides, pesticides, fungicides. I hope you are able to visualize that it is mainly going to be for what purpose? It's going to be mainly for the crop protection purpose, for agricultural purpose, right? It's a manufacturer, it's an exporter, it's also a marketeer company. Okay, it's based in Vapi and also it has one or two plants around Vapi in Gujarat. One important point is that they're a leading domestic producers of synthetic pyrethroids. I'm sure many of you, including me, even I was not aware about what is pyrethroid until I start reading about this company. Pyrethroid is an organic compound which is made from pyrethrin. What is this pyrethrin? Pyrethrin is nothing but a natural element which is found in chrysanthemum. Uh, Many of you will be like, what is chrysanthemum? Marathi people, Shevanti. Okay, that is chrysanthemum. So it's, you can imagine that the flower chrysanthemum has pyrethrin inside it, and what we do, we would extract that and we would make pyrethrin. We would make, sorry, synthetic pyrethroid out of this pyrethrin. Now, what would it be used for? So now let's understand some applications of pyrethroids. Pyrethroids are mainly used for three purposes. You can, I hope it's very easily visible. One is agriculture, one is public health, and one is animal health. For agriculture, why is it used? I told you, insecticide, pesticide, all that. You can also see that it can be used for protecting fruits, vegetable, cotton, rice, soybean, mainly for that. Why public health? For mosquito sprays. Remember, I took an entry like Shah Rukh Khan, Main Hoon Na. Well, he did it from near a train. I was just in that, from the mosquito smoke, right? So, well, anyways, it's also used in pharmaceutical to control head lice, also to control mosquitoes, and also it is into animal health. Moving on, they also manufacture three main products, which is intermediates, basically, technicals, and formulations. I'm sure these 3 points, none of them you have understood, but we are going to talk about that in the immediate next part of the video. Now I want your 100% attention for next 1 or 2 minutes maximum. Okay. This is when you will understand what does the company manufacture. They manufacture three major products. And which are these three? One is intermediate, one is technical, and one is formulations. Now, if I take all these three together, this actually forms the entire value chain of an agrochemical industry. Okay. So if I say a company is into agrochemical business, so they either manufacture one of these three or all of these three. Fair enough. Now let's understand one by one what are all these three products all about. So intermediate, you can imagine it's like a product which is used to make the second one, which is technicals. Okay. So in simple words, intermediate is something which is not like an end product. It can't be used directly. Intermediate is used to make technicals. Okay. So one more simple word, I may say that intermediate is actually like a raw material or a work in progress to make the final product, which is technicals. Now wait, what is technicals? Technicals is nothing but, if you remember, I told you in the previous slide, they're nothing but your insecticide, fungicides, pesticides, herbicides. Okay, all these are nothing but what? Technicals. But wait, they are absolutely in the concentrated format. So if someone directly starts spraying these technicals on crops, the crops might have a very adverse impact on that. So then what is done? In those technicals, a lot of dilution is made. Okay, so you can imagine that there is this big can. Inside that, just 2% will be technicals and balance 98% will be something which will maybe dilute that entire liquid. And this product, final product, will be known as formulations. Okay, so basically I can say that in formulations, many additives will be put, many products will be put which actually dilutes the effect. It increases its shelf life also. Okay, so what will be more of end use in directly farming and all that, that will be more of formulations. Technicals is generally used by companies to make further products out of that. Clear or what? I hope yes. If not, you can rewind this part of the video and recheck it. Now let's go on to what all or how many products they have registered with them. You can see a big list of this. The number of registrations held by Heramba is you can see 18 technicals registered for manufacture and sale in India. I'm not going to read out that entire list, but I think what is more important is for you all to understand that why are they registering this. So for example, I make a product, I make my course on basics of stock market, or I make a course on technical analysis. Do I need to get it registered somewhere? So ideally answer is no. Okay, but if they are making some fungicide, if they are making some pesticide, do they, I mean, are they required to register it somewhere? Answer is yes. With whom? With Central Insecticide Board and Registration Committee. Who said so? कोण म्हणलं हे करायचंय? Who said so? Section 9 of Insecticides Act 1968. Oh my god. Frankly speaking, even I came to know about this act while studying about this company. So there's this act, Insecticide Act, which says that if you are making any insecticides, you need to get it registered with CIB and RC, right? Going ahead with presence, the company presently has 9,400 plus dealers having access to 21 company depots across 16 states and 1 union territory. In fiscal year 2020, they exported to more than 60 countries in so many parts of the world. So let's move on with the industry and economy analysis. India is the 4th largest global producer of crop protection products. We are 4th. Who are top 3? 1 to everyone knows. But first one is US, then Japan, then China. Okay. Next point, important point is that our Indian exports of agrochemical products has reached a value of 3.37 billion US dollars, which is growing at a CAGR of 11.6% during 2014 to 19. Then we have to understand why these exports are growing. We have to understand few reasons. The very first reason is that overall food demand is increasing. So if food demand increases, the demand for products which protect the food produce obviously increases, number one. Number two, rising demand for horticulture and floriculture. There is also an increased export potential, and very important, we are also seeing very good government budgetary and policy support. So if I now come to chemicals, agrochemical industry as a whole, you can see this graph whereby we can very clearly see that the agrochemical markets in India has reached a value of US 2.76 billions. Oh, by the way, 2.76 billions is nothing but 2,760 millions. Okay. So what is this? This is the value of the total agrochemical market in India. So this is like domestic sales. We make it, we sell it in India. What was the previous point about? It was how much we export. So I hope you have understood this. Export is 3.37 billion and domestic sales is 2.76 billions, right? Well, moving on, you can see that the global agrochemical market share, you can see it's around 65.59 billions. How much will be India's share? So you can see that in the previous slide, we had talked about 3.37 billions being export. Domestic consumption was 2.76 billions. So totality will come to somewhere around 6 billions. And overall global share is how much? 65.59 billion. So in simple words, India's share in sales, total, if I compare India's sales as a comparison to total global sales, it's around 10%. That's a good number, right? The only negative point which I found here was that how is the global market doing for agrochemical business? It has just grown at a CAGR of 1.89%. Of course, I should not say has grown. It is expected to grow is the proper word, because it is 2019 to 2025. It's expected to grow at only 1.89%, right? Moving on with pyrethroid market share, right now Heranba has 19.5% of the overall market share. It is a leader, followed by Tagros Chemicals, Hemami, Dhanuka, Syngenta, whatever. Right, and global market share, if I'm talking about Asia Pacific accounts for 39.5%. So that's also a pretty big number. So I hope you have understood 3-4 major points. Number one, how our exports are placed. Number two, how our domestic sales are placed. Our total sales account for roughly 10% of the global sales, right? And number four, if I'm talking about even Asia Pacific or company specific, Heranba is ranking number 1, and in Asia Pacific we had a share of 39.5%. Let's understand the journey of the company. It started its manufacturing of intermediates in 1996. In 2002, they moved to technicals. In 2005, they moved on to formulations. In 2006, they moved on to branded formulations. 2014, they got an ISO certification. In 2015, they achieved a turnover of 500 crores. And in 2020, they exported a technical and formulations to more than 60 countries in the international markets. Wait, you might be wondering, Rachna had told about 3 major things: intermediates, technicals and formulations. Remember, then what about intermediates? intermediates, they don't sell. Intermediates, this company uses only for captive consumption, that is nothing but self consumption. Now let's understand the business segments. If you remember 3 business segments, you already know: intermediate, technicals, and formulation. But intermediate is for what? Self consumption. So we have, technically speaking, only 2: technicals and formulations. Inside that, what is the split up? Number 1 is domestic institutional sales of technicals. It's an institutional sales, not for people like you and me. Second one is technical exports. Third one is branded formulations under their own name. Fourth one is formulation exports. So one is like normal sale, one is like export for formulations as well as technicals, and the last one is public health. Now if you want to understand the revenue split, how much revenue is generated out of all these, so you can very well see in this chart that 36.48% is generated by technical exports and 12.83% is generated by formulation export. So you can easily understand that almost 50% is of the total revenue is through exports. But where all do they export? You can very well see that the geographical diversification is very good. It's very well spread out between Asia, Middle East, South Asia, Africa, nicely spread. But one point of concern is that major export, almost 28.35% of the total export is only to China. Wait, we are exporting to China, something new, right? Okay, so major chunk is export to China. Now going on with the next one, if I were to split revenue from exports, 49.31% is exports out of the total sale. Means what? If company is selling products worth rupees 100, 49 comes from exports and 51 comes from domestic sale. Now what is being sold? How is the split of that 49? Out of that 49, major chunk is only of technicals and a minor chunk that you can see in that gray is of formulations. In simple words, if let us say out of 100 rupees export, out of 100 rupees export sale, 81 rupees are generated by selling what? Technicals, and balance 18-19% is generated by selling of formulations. I hope this part is also clear. Let's move on with the financials part. First, let's start with the top line and bottom line analysis. You can see that revenue from operations has steadily grown from 18 to 20. It has grown at a 13% CAGR. Even if we talk about EBITDA margins have also consistently improved from 12.5% to 13.82 to 15.33, and latest data as per September 30th, it has grown to 16.20% EBITDA margin. If I'm talking about PAT margin has also grown at a CAGR of 44.41% from March 18 to March 20. That's a decent enough jump. Even if I talk about EPS has almost more than doubled. If I'm comparing March 18, where EPS was only 12, and March 20, EPS is 25.03. If I go on to the net debt to equity ratio, you can see that debt is very negligible. Even if I take 30th September latest figures, debt is 127 millions, but the equity amount is like 3,812 millions. So that's a pretty much positive sign for the company that debt is very less. Now, if I go on to the net worth of the company, total net worth has also doubled from March 18 to March 20, because the net worth was 1,573 millions in March 18, and here you can see that as of March 31st, 2020, it has gone to 3,208 millions. Well, let's move on with the risks involved in this IPO. First of all, you can see here that there are certain group companies which are having negative profits, that is nothing but losses, and negative net worth. In the just previous part of the video, I told you that this company's net worth, Heranbaa's net worth, almost doubled. But there is one of the group company, which is Shakti Biosciences Limited. They have a negative net worth. If you can see, it has been continuously increasing from 459 millions in 2018 to 534 millions in 2020. In fact, if I'm talking about profit or loss also, Shakti Biosciences is again the same group company I'm talking about. They had a loss of 60 millions for the year 2020. Now you might be wondering, that's not such a huge amount. Why even Rachna is mentioning about this? I am mentioning about this because Cosmos Bank had declared Shakti Bio as a willful defaulter in the year 2016-17, but in 2019 they have cleared their entire dues and they have also received a NOC from the bank. So please understand, these are not like huge risks, but you should know that there are certain group companies which are involved in such activities, right? Next one is contingent liability. You can see the total of September 2020 column, which is starting with 50.23 million, 315 million, da, 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 so on and so forth. Total contingent liability as at 30th September is 532 millions. So what is a contingent liability? Company may have to pay this amount in future, okay? But let's understand how much is the profit for this 6 months ended. This 6 months ended profit is 663 millions versus as at date contingent liability of 532 million. So I hope you're understanding that their contingent liability is almost equal to half a year's profit. So which can't be totally ignored. So I feel this is one of the risks which the company surely has. Let's move ahead with the IPO details. The IPO opens on 23rd of February, closes on 25th of February. It is going to get listed on the stock exchange on 5th of March. The cutoff price of this share is at 627 per share and the floor price is 626 rupees per share. So minimum amount, application amount comes to 14,421, maximum being 1,87,473. The post-issue shareholding of the promoters is going to go down from 98.1% to 74.1%. Who are the selling shareholders? Selling shareholders are Sadashiv Shetty, Raghuram Shetty, okay. And what is the big point here? The big point is that almost 565 crores is being raised through OFS, and through fresh issue, it's just an amount of 60 crores. Well, let's try and analyze how the valuation of this share is placed at right now. We are taking into account four parameters: PE, EPS, RONW, which is return on net worth, and NAV per share. If you can see, PE is the lowest amongst its peers. That's a positive point. If I talk about EPS, it is the second highest. So highest being Bharat Rasayan Limited. Return on net worth is also the highest for Heranba. For NAV, it is again the second highest. Bharat Rasayan is again way above that. But still, I hope you have understood that it's either at number one position or number two position in almost all the parameters. If I talk about PE, the average PE is coming to 60.99, average of all peers, whereas the company's PE is coming to only 25. Homework alert. This time as well, I'm going to give you a homework wherein you have to find out the litigations, major litigations on the company, and what are the future plans of the company. So where can you find these? You can find this in the red herring prospectus, or if you are kind of lazy, it's okay. It's okay. You can check out my website rachnaranade.com, wherein in the blog section you can see a separate blog on litigations and future plans. Well, the final grand finale question, as usual, whether I'm going to apply or not. For that, you have to check this live stream on 25th of February at 11:30 a.m. So till then, keep studying, take care, Jai Hind, and bye-bye.